Imagine walking across sharp stones, burning desert sand, or freezing snow with nothing protecting your feet, long before sneakers, leather boots, or fashion brands. Humans had to invent something simple, yet life-changing shoes. But how did we go from animal skins tied with rope to high-tech athletic sneakers? In today's episode of English Legendcast, you'll discover the fascinating history of shoes, from ancient civilizations to modern innovation. And while you explore history, you'll also improve your English through clear storytelling and powerful vocabulary. Let's take the first step back in time. Before shoes had soles, imagine walking barefoot across sharp stones, burning sand, or frozen ground long before modern sneakers, leather boots, or stylish fashion brands. Human beings faced the natural world with almost no protection for their feet. Yet, even in prehistoric times, people understood something simple but powerful. The feet must be protected. Early humans were hunters and gatherers. They traveled long distances across forests, deserts, mountains, and icy landscapes. Walking barefoot was possible in some environments, but dangerous in others. Sharp rocks could cut the skin. Extreme cold could freeze the toes. Hot sand could burn. Archaeologists believe that the first forms of footwear appeared tens of thousands of years ago. These early shoes were extremely simple. They were likely made from animal skins, wrapped around the foot and tied with strips of leather or plant fibers. The goal was not fashion. It was survival. In colder regions, early humans probably stuffed grass or fur inside these coverings for warmth. In warmer climates, thinner materials may have been used to protect the soles from injury. Although these early shoes have mostly disappeared over time, scientists have found indirect evidence, such as changes in ancient foot bones, suggesting that humans began wearing footwear very early in history. Shoes were not a luxury. They were a response to the environment. This was the beginning of a long journey. From basic survival tools to powerful cultural symbols, the story of shoes is deeply connected to human movement, identity, and progress. And this is only the first step. Sandals, status, and civilization. As human societies grew into organized civilizations, shoes began to change. They were no longer only about survival. They started to represent culture, climate, and even social status. In ancient Egypt, most people walked barefoot indoors, but outdoors they often wore simple sandals, made from woven papyrus or palm leaves. These sandals were lightweight and practical for the hot desert climate. However, not all sandals were equal. Wealthy Egyptians sometimes wore decorated versions made from leather and precious materials. Footwear was becoming a symbol of rank. In ancient Greece and Rome, shoes became more structured. Greek sandals featured leather straps, carefully designed to support the foot. Roman soldiers wore strong, open-work leather boots, called caligae, built for long marches across rough terrain. These military shoes were practical and durable, showing how footwear supported empire building and expansion. Interestingly, in Rome, certain types of shoes were reserved for specific classes. Senators wore distinctive footwear, and different colors could represent different positions in society. Shoes were now part of identity. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, including ancient India and China, footwear reflected local materials and traditions. From wooden platforms to silk slippers, each design told a story about climate, craftsmanship, and culture. Shoes had evolved beyond protection. They now communicated power, profession, and personality. Human footsteps were shaping history, and shoes were quietly shaping human footsteps, craftsmanship, fashion, and power. As the Middle Ages arrived, shoes became more than practical objects. They became expressions of fashion, wealth, and authority. In medieval Europe, shoemaking developed into a respected craft. Skilled artisans carefully cut leather, shaped soles, and stitched pieces together by hand. Shoes were no longer simply wrapped around the foot. They were carefully constructed. During this time, style began to reflect status in dramatic ways. In some regions, Long pointed shoes known as poulaines became fashionable among the upper class. The longer the pointed tip, the higher the social status of the wearer. Some were so exaggerated that they had to be tied to the leg to prevent tripping. Footwear had officially entered the world of bold fashion statements. At the same time, practical designs continued to evolve. Workers wore thick leather boots for protection. Knights and soldiers needed durable footwear for battle. In colder climates, fur-lined boots provided warmth and survival during harsh winters. In Asia, shoemaking traditions were equally refined. In China, delicate embroidered silk shoes were worn by women of certain social classes. In Japan, wooden sandals elevated the foot above mud and rain. Each region developed designs suited to environment, culture, and tradition. Shoes were now connected to identity. They signaled profession, class, and even personality. From royal courts to muddy streets, footwear was no longer just about walking. It was about being seen, and the biggest transformation was still ahead. Industry, innovation, and the rise of the modern shoe. The greatest transformation in the history of shoes came with the Industrial Revolution. Before this period, every pair of shoes was made by hand. Skilled cobblers measured each foot, cut the leather carefully, and stitched every piece together. Shoes were personal, durable, and often repaired many times before being replaced. But in the 18th and 19th centuries, factories began changing everything. New machines allowed shoes to be produced faster and in larger quantities. Instead of one artisan making a single pair, entire workshops divided the work into steps. One worker cut the leather. Another stitched the upper part. Another attached the sole. This system, known as mass production, made shoes more affordable and widely available. For the first time in history, ordinary people could buy ready-made footwear. Shoes were no longer reserved for the wealthy. They became everyday necessities for workers, children, and families. Then came another innovation: rubber soles. In the 19th century, vulcanized rubber made shoes more flexible and water-resistant. This led to the creation of early athletic footwear. By the early 20th century, sneakers were born. Shoes were no longer only about survival or status. They were becoming specialized tools for sports, labor, travel, and fashion. From handmade leather boots to factory-produced sneakers, footwear had entered the modern world, and yet, even this was not the final step. From protection to identity today, shoes are everywhere. They fill closets, store shelves, fashion runways, and sports arenas. What began as a simple tool for survival has become one of the most powerful symbols of identity in the modern world. In the 20th and 21st centuries, footwear transformed again. Athletic brands designed specialized shoes for running, basketball, football, and hiking. High heels became fashion statements. Boots represented rebellion, elegance, or strength. Sneakers became cultural icons connected to music, sports, and street style. Shoes now tell stories. They can reflect personality, profession, culture, and even values. Some people choose sustainable footwear made from recycled materials. Others collect limited edition sneakers as investments. A simple pair of shoes can represent comfort, power, performance, or creativity. Technology has also reshaped design. Lightweight synthetic materials, air cushioning, ergonomic soles, and 3D printed components have pushed footwear into the future. Some modern shoes are designed using data from athletes' movements. Others focus on health, posture, and long-term comfort. Yet, despite all this innovation, the purpose remains connected to our ancestors. Protection and movement. Every step you take carries thousands of years of history. Beneath your feet, from animal skins wrapped for survival to high-tech performance sneakers. The story of shoes mirrors the story of humanity itself, adapting, creating, and constantly moving forward. And with every step, we continue that journey.